Senator from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recognized, if I could, for 15 minutes, and please let me know when my time's close to being.
Is there objection? Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you very much. Number one, Mr. President, I'm the author of the legislation that we'll be voting on tomorrow, so I'm very proud of the product. I've worked with my colleagues to try to come up with a solution to what I think is a problem that needs to be addressed. To my good friend from Connecticut, I appreciate where he's coming from. He's a fine man. We just disagree on this. He has legislation called, I think, Protecting Women's Health Care Act, something like that. I don't want to mispronounce the title, but he has legislation that would roll back state limitations on abortion that have been proved by the Supreme Court. He just disagrees with what the states are doing in light of what the Supreme Court would allow a state to do. So he has a piece of legislation that would basically, at the federal level, change all these state laws. And I respect his point of view. The point I'm trying to make is that he wouldn't have introduced the legislation if he didn't think this was an important topic. So my colleagues on the other side, you have legislation that I would gladly allow you to bring to the floor. I want to have a debate on what we're trying to accomplish here. You have legislation that I'm sure the reason you did it is you'd like to change state laws you don't agree with. So a little bit disingenuous to say we shouldn't be talking about these topics because you've drafted legislation on this topic. So what am I trying to accomplish? We're one of 7 nations in the entire world that allow abortion on demand at 20 weeks, the 5th month of the pregnancy. I'd like to get us out of that club. Why? Because at 5 months, I really don't believe it makes us a better nation to have abortion on demand. And there are exceptions in this bill for the life of the mother. And in cases of rape, you have to tell the physician this pregnancy was a result of a rape, but that's all. There's no reporting requirement to the police or anything else. That's a balance we've tried to achieve. But what I would suggest that most Americans agree with me, that most Americans believe that at the 5th month, we should not have abortion on demand. We should not be in a club of 7 nations on the entire planet that allow abortion at this stage in the birthing process. And the theory of the case is pretty simple. Medical science has evolved to the point now that if you operate on a baby at 20 weeks, which you can, to save that baby's life or to help them medically, medical science says you have to provide anesthesia because the baby can feel excruciating pain. So we now know scientifically at the 5th month of the birthing process at 20 weeks, doctors will not operate on the baby without anesthesia. Here's the question. Should we be allowing abortion on demand at that point in time? Should we be crushing the skull? Should we be destroying the baby's life? Should we be one of 7 countries that allow this heinous practice in the 5th month? We do have exceptions for life of the mother, rape and incest. I would suggest we should be talking about this. I suggest we should have done this a long time ago, that we should have gotten out of this club of 7 nations that allow a baby to be aborted in the 5th month. When you look at medical encyclopedias advising young parents at this stage in the pregnancy, they encourage young parents to interact with the unborn baby, to sing and speak, because the baby can associate sound. We're talking about 5 months, folks. We're talking about changing the law so that this country would not allow abortion on demand at this late stage in the birthing process. This is something I'm proud to be talking about. I'm honored to lead the fight, and all I ask is that you vote. Now, the vote as to whether or not to have a debate. Our Democratic friends are going to deny us a debate as to whether or not this is a good idea. We can't even proceed to the bill. And I am willing to allow them to bring up their legislation as an amendment to mine, the Women's Protection of Health Care Act, where you want to repeal state laws that put limits on abortion consistent with Supreme Court decisions. I'm not afraid of my idea. You shouldn't be afraid of yours. This is a debate worthy of a free people. This is a debate worthy of a democracy. If this is not worth talking about, what is? When do you become you? When do you have a soul if you have one at all? What kind of nation do we want to be in 2015? Roe v. Wade says that until there's medical viability, the first trimester, abortions are off limits. But when medical viability is reached, the state has a compelling interest in providing protection to the unborn child. That was 1973. Has anything changed since 1973? I would argue a lot has changed, all for the better, in terms of medical science. We can do things now for patients, including the unborn, you could not even imagine in 1973. But the theory of the case here is not medical viability at 20 weeks, but a new concept that I hope most Americans will embrace. Now that we know the baby is developed to the point that they would feel excruciating pain if they were operated on to save their lives, is it appropriate for legislative bodies like ours to come to that baby's aid and take off the table abortion on demand? Here's what I believe. I believe this is constitutionally sound. I believe this is a debate worthy of a free people. I believe the time has come for America to get out of the club of 7 that allows this procedure at 20 weeks, the 5th month of the birthing process. I think it's something we should talk about. I think it's worthy of our time. And to my friends on the other side, you have views about this topic too. You have introduced legislation regarding abortion that would roll back state protections of the unborn. I am not afraid of that debate. I disagree with you. Bring your legislation forward. What are you afraid of? Why won't you let me debate my bill? Why can't we have a discussion as a free people about where we want to be in 2015 regarding the unborn child? To my friends on the other side, the unborn child is not the enemy. The unborn child is something that every American should care about. And here's what I think. In the 5th month of pregnancy, most Americans, not all, but most, overwhelming number of Americans are going to side with me and my colleagues who have helped me through this journey and say, no, America will not allow this. We're not going to be one of 7 nations that allow abortion on demand in the 5th month. We're going to withdraw from that club. And if we do, it will be a good thing. We'll be a better people if we stop this practice in the 5th month, knowing we have exceptions for the life of the mother in cases of rape and incest. This doesn't make us anything other than a caring, better people. And this is why I ran for office, to have debates like this, not just this, but like this. I want to talk to you about creating jobs and growing the economy and stopping radical Islam. There's so much we need to do, but here's the question. Do we need to do this? I think so. I think with all my heart and soul that America needs to get out of this club, that America needs to come to the aid of a baby who's 20 weeks into the birthing process, and we should stand united and stop this practice. I think this makes us a better people. I think at the end of the day, this debate is worthy of our time and, quite frankly, is long overdue. And I'm very disappointed that we can't even have the debate. But this I promise you, as long as I'm here and many others on our side and hopefully some on this side over here, this debate will continue until we get the right answer. We came together in a very large vote, bipartisan in nature, to ban abortion in the last trimester, except in rare circumstances. That was the right thing to do. Abortions in the 7th, 8th, and 9th month do not make us a better people. There was bipartisanship to stop that procedure. Here's what I believe. I believe over time the American people are going to side with me and my colleagues, and we're going to rise to the occasion, and we're going to say something pretty basic. At 5 months, we're not going to allow abortion on demand because that baby can feel excruciating pain, and we're not going to put that baby through the process of having their life terminated in such a gruesome fashion. These Planned Parenthood videos, there's discussion about harvesting organs from children late in the birthing process has woken America up. So I promise you, this is a debate worthy of this body, worthy of this country, one that we're going to have over and over again until we can get a vote. And I'm not going to stop. You have stopped me if you don't give us 60 votes to debate this. If we can't get the bill to the floor for a debate, I think that's a bad thing. I think life is more than just about money. I think life is not about just money. I think the quality of our country is more than our financial situation. I think the quality of our nation in many ways is founded not on our finances, but our character. And here's what I believe: that America needs to get out of this club of 7 that allows little babies to be aborted at a time when doctors cannot operate on them without providing anesthesia because it hurts so much. Just think about what I just said. Medical science will not put the baby through an operation to save its life without anesthesia because it hurts so much. And all I'm asking is just don't crush that baby's skull unless there's a very good reason. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. Is that worthy of our time? I definitely believe so. Are we going to keep pushing? You better believe it. Senator Portman, Senator Ernst, and others who have helped me so much. To Senator McConnell, thank you for reserving some time to have this discussion. I hope it turns into a debate, but the Senate needs to be on record. And this is an opportunity for all of us to be on record as to where we think the country should be in 2015. Here's what I think. I think in 2015, America needs to withdraw from a club of 7 nations that would allow a baby at 20 weeks to be aborted for any reason at all. So I look forward to this discussion. I hope we can have a debate. I'm not afraid of my ideas. You shouldn't be afraid of yours. But I promise everybody who cares about this, we will not stop. And to me, it has always been about the baby. And I think most Americans will side with me and my colleagues and say, over time, with a very strong and loud voice, we do not want abortion on demand in the 5th month of pregnancy unless there's a darn good reason, because that doesn't make us a better people. Quite frankly, it's the opposite. So thank you, Mr. President, for your support. To my colleagues over here and hopefully a few over there, I look forward to this journey to one day where we can withdraw from the Club of 7 and protect unborn children in a way that I think most Americans would appreciate. With that, I yield.